Algoma inland opportunities. Spectacular.
That's all because I messed around with Chris with this a couple times.
Cool. All right. Now you guys have the expertise. I'm sort of just jumping on this one. So yeah. So we can get rolling. It's 8:02. We can get rolling shortly. I just want to say thank you to Tyler for jumping in for this this other out of the depths presentation. I was with Tyler for a few days this spring, fishing the inland lakes of the Algoma region for pre-spawn smallmouth bass, and it was a spectacular time. I cannot tell you how much of a great experience it was. It's super cool, huge fish, and more bass than I've ever seen. Plus, we also hooked a musky. It was out of season, but it grabbed my fly from under the boat, not trying to go for it. It was just a really be like, what is in this water? Holy crap. It was very, very cool. The musky did cut the line. It did swim away, so there's no handling of the fish. We're all super, super legit with that. But just it was a moment of like, wow, there is a lot in these waters up here. And the bass fishing, I can't get over how good it was, and I can't speak to how great it is. And I can't believe that more people don't do it. I think for the few days we were out, we saw a handful of boats, and it was like prime time. It was insane.
That was the end of May, if I think. I don't remember exact dates, but it was May long weekend-ish.
Yep,
around there a little bit later. And you're right, that was prime time. And we seen a handful of boats on the one lake. The other lake, I think we had to ourselves.
Yes, yeah, that was it. Shocking. Like down this way, we would be overrun. It'd be way too busy. But yeah, up your way, there's so much water, and because there's so many great opportunities, that pressure isn't there. So if anyone is planning on getting up that region, we'll talk about that today. Other things as well. But please contact Tyler about his guiding service and getting into his boat, because he knows where the fish are, what they're doing, what they're taking, and how to approach them. So please, let's look at these guys, support the guides, because they know what the heck they're doing, and they'll make your days on the water just that much better.
Thanks, man.
Cool.
Okay, well, we'll get right at it, and I'm gonna go. We'll start off just some real quick general information with Algoma. Everybody knows as Algoma country. It's 70,000 square kilometers. The Algoma district borders to the Great Lakes, Lake Superior, obviously, and Lake Huron. We're very close to Lake Michigan. I steelhead down there quite a bit. I can fish Lake Michigan waters within 2 hours type of thing. The biggest city in Algoma would be where I am at in Sault Ste. Marie. I believe east to west, the borders are from Spanish to just outside White River. I don't remember exactly where, but it's between Wawa and White River somewhere, or maybe just past White River, sorry, where the signs are. And Algoma heads north all the way up to just south of Hearst. A little bit past Hornpain, a little bit south of Hearst, there's a sign. I can't remember exactly where on the highway up there, but it's a huge area. I think they say it's 10,000 lakes. Yeah, no, you can't fish in a lifetime, but that's just general information on the Algoma district. Just little pictures of kind of the area there. Left is all the districts in Northern Ontario. On the right, it's kind of zoomed in. I believe purple is Algoma. Thing about Algoma, like I spoke before, even about the St. Mary's River and just the Sault Ste. Marie area in general, is there's a lot of basically every species. There is 3 different zones here. Inland is zone 10, the St. Mary's River is zone 14, and Lake Superior is zone 9. So just keep that in mind when you're fishing, even inland, just different seasons, different catch limits, all that kind of thing. I just have a couple general, these are the most sought after species I get questions about. The bass, of course, it's open year round. It's pretty simple. Northern Pike is another thing that's open year round up here. It closes on St. Mary's River, but I believe it's open year round on Superior too. The lake trout inland, it's closed Labor Day Monday, I believe, until January 1st. Our brook trout's open until the end of September, so it closes October 1st, runs into the start of January, or starts again January 1st. Splake's open year round, as well as rainbow trout. Spring bass. I think it was the week, I think you left May long weekend. So I think you were here just before the May long, and you went to Manitoulin.
Yeah, that was it.
On that year, and it worked out perfect where the fish were a few fish had started to bed, but most are still pre-spawn, but they were hanging around pretty close to the bedding areas. So we really didn't have to go searching too far. We were fishing on the drop-offs leading up to those spawning areas. We did some sight fishing, but a lot of our fish we didn't really see. You were catching them off those drop-offs, kind of some of them cruising the flats, getting ready to do their thing. But I remember that it was just before they actually started locking on their beds, and that time of the year you kind of don't want to mess with them too bad when they're locked on their beds. Some days you can literally throw anything at them and they'll bite. They're just there to move it off their bed and let them do their thing. Just some more fish from the trip. What do you think, Rob? That big bass you have there, that's a little bigger than average, but a lot of fish in that size caliber.
Oh, those were incredible fish.
Yeah.
I've never seen so many large smallmouth bass in my entire life, concentrated towards the banks and all that. So it was just, it was lights out. Those big females with big fish, I think you were saying that once they are done they go through spawning and they drop out. They're very hard to find, but this time of year, they're near bedding areas.
A lot of times they'll move out to those initial, where we were catching them on those drop-offs. They'll actually go to those drop-offs again, but they'll suspend off of them. So they're finicky, to say the least. A lot of those times they just don't eat. They recover from their spawn. So you got about a week or so after spawn where it can be pretty tough. So some years that will be mid-June, some years early June, lake to lake too. Some lakes are a little bit later than others. The lake we were on was a pretty big, cool lake. So it's a little bit later of a spawn on that lake, I find. But generally, we're fishing smallies end of April. Like this year, I'm expecting to be in the boat end of April out there fishing bass. And then this year, I'm expecting them to probably fish well up until about the end of May before they get a little sulky after spawn.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. There's some more pictures. That's that game changer fly. You tie it up.
Oh, that thing was deadly.
I still have this fly. I was in my truck still. You tied that clouser up for the smallmouth.
Oh yeah.
We'll talk about flies in a second here. There's some pictures of the game changer you sent me that you tied. You guys stayed at my place on Lake DeBorn. If people are wondering, I do have a place for guys to rent and stay on the lake with a boat launch now and docks and all that. Private launch and docks. Great smallmouth fishing on that lake too.
It was very comfortable. It was a very, very nice place to stay. It was fantastic, like great beds. It was all the amenities. The cooktop there was fantastic too. So a wonderful place to stay. So if you're going to go out with Tyler, consider that as your option for accommodation. You're right on the water too. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Now the boat, I don't think the boat launch was put in yet when you're maybe a small one, but now the docks are out there. And I'm actually using that lake quite a bit now for my bass fishing. Oh, so a lot of times I'll just come to you in the morning and we launch right from there.
Oh, too easy.
Yeah. Too easy. That's my wife's Sarah. That's the biggest smallmouth I've put in the boat yet. Anybody's put in the boat. There was a little over 7 pounds. I think it was 7.2, 7.3.
That's huge.
It was our first day ever going bass fishing, of course.
Of course it is.
Yeah, of course. That Dan Favato, friend of most of everybody from down south. Everybody knows Dan. He did a couple videos up north here with me around the Sioux. 2 of them was for bass, and he stayed at our other place on a lake, another cottage we use. We stayed there for a couple days. We did actually the lake me and you fished with Mike twice. That's the lake we stayed on, and Dan got a taste of that lake with the musky mixed in a couple times and stuff like that. That's a drone shot from Dan. That's just a couple shoals that we'll fish for we've used those shoals year round basically, but this was a springtime picture again here. We were looking for some fish that were just coming off a spawn actually.
That structure is amazing. It is. There's wonders up there. Tons of it. Yeah.
These are just clients. Most of them are fly fishing clients here. These are probably a couple years old, some of them, but a lot of fly fishing. A few from Waterfalls Lodge. I did some guiding for Waterfalls Lodge in the past. They're just outside of Spanish. Rob and Kathy owned it. I just got word they sold it, so I don't know the new owners. but great drive-to lodge for people to stay at. Full service restaurant, bar, actually pretty nice rental boats. They have bow mounts and the whole bit. They have access to a private lake, which is nice. So they used to call me in for some guiding quite frequently about 4 or 5 years ago. So nothing but good things to say about Waterfalls Lodge. These are some more pictures from Waterfalls Lodge. You can see that orange fly in that one bass's mouth. It's right here, actually. It's called Scotty McFly. It's the new fly fisher named it Scotty McFly. I'm not sure the story behind that, but it's a great fly up here in the northern lakes for smallmouth.
Yeah, we started carrying this fly in the shop. That was a bestseller very quickly for bass season.
I think what the guy Scotty's tied it up. So there's Scotty McFly came. He's from I think he's from Spanish. The guy actually.
Yeah, fair enough. That's an easy way to get that name.
Yeah. These are some spin guys. I think these two throwing. I can see a tube jig in that one bass's mouth. Pretty standard setup for around here. Some more bass from the young guys. This is summertime bass fishing. I remember this young guy. I don't remember his name, but I had him and his father out spin fishing, and he wanted to fly fish, so we started fly fishing, and I think he caught a bass in about 10 minutes. Great practice because he wasn't a great caster, and it wasn't even about casting. It was about getting a couple fish in the line, getting comfortable about fighting the fish and holding on to it. And you know what? Bass fishing is fantastic for that. It's good practice. You're not casting all that far. You have targets a lot of the times. You can see bass. You're actually casting at something that you can see. It's just a good time to practice. Yep. So we have some largemouth mixed in with the smallmouth too. Algoma is not known for largemouth. We're definitely known for more smallmouth in this area. I would say there's probably 3 or 4 lakes I use that have largemouth in it. A few of them, the populations aren't all that great. Some bigger fish around, but a couple of lakes do have a pretty good population of largemouth, some good numbers, some big fish in the mix. I think we did a couple hours of largemouth, but I got pictures of it here. Yeah, that lake we went to, it's a smaller lake actually. That's probably the smallest lake we fished for largemouth. Like you experienced with good numbers, great for fly fishing for largemouth. Because generally, I'm not a huge fan of fly fishing for largemouth just because of the heavy cover usually. Like frog fishing or fishing docks even, you gotta really, as soon as you feel something tight, you gotta crank it in. It's a little bit different than gear guys where they have bait caster with the high gear ratio, 60-pound test line, and just a little bit different. Most of my fly guys are looking for smallmouth, to be honest. These are just some general fly fishing stuff for flies for the smallmouth, crayfish patterns, small minnow stuff, clouser, Scotty McFly. Most of our lakes in Algoma, majority of them do have smelts. So smelt patterns, game changers, obviously. 6 and 7 weight rods. Some guys bring 8s. There's no big deal with that, but I recommend a 6 or 7, 9 foot, even a 5 weight sometimes. Will get you by no problem. Floating lines. Springtime, that's all you need is a floating line you can have a sink tip off your floating line. But once fall comes around, you're going to want a full sinking line sometime. Well, most of the time we're fishing, 20, 30 feet sometimes. Casts, let it sink. It's pretty boring for the first 10, 15 seconds before you even get it down there. But that's the way it is that time of the year. But they're schooled up that time of the year too in the fall. So that is another great time to come up to Algoma for the bass. Is they're schooled up off points and flats and stuff like that, getting ready for cold winters. This is for the gear guys. Just general stuff. If you're a gear guy, you've seen all this kind of thing: top water poppers, walk the dog baits, frogs, jerk baits, stick baits, tubes, nets, drop shots, skirted jigs, swim baits, stuff like that. You don't need to bring all that kind of thing, but bring 4 or 5 different setups. You'll do just fine. Here's some pike. These are inland pike. I honestly don't target the inland pike all that much anymore. again, you'll see on my next presentation with Nipigon. I do most of my guide trips up on Nipigon for the pike. It's just insane up there for the big pike. That said, there's some great pike fisheries in Algoma. Most of these pike fisheries that hold some of the bigger fish are the north part of Algoma, up towards Chapleau, Hornpain, Wawa, or White River. Around the Sioux, we do have some nice lakes with some big pike in it, but you're going to work for the bigger pikes and take a little bit of fishing. We have some lakes with good numbers of smaller pike, like you see on the picture on the left. That's a 5-6 pound pike, and around our lakes, that's pretty common to catch fish like that. The one on the right, I don't think that was 40 inches, but it was close, and that's an easy accessible lake. As you can see in the background, that truck's actually at the boat launch with the trailer in the water, and we were just casting at the dock before we left, and that pike came up from the dock. Yeah, just one of those days. Some musky. The musky on the left was caught in the lake that we fished for smallmouth there.
Yep.
This is summertime stuff. We're fishing for musky. Those were gear fishermen. On the right was actually the first fly fishing show I ever did with Colin McEwen on the new fly fisher. That was probably 7 or 8 years ago now, maybe that long. Yeah, crazy. But that is actually on a river in zone 10 here that we get some musky off Superior. That was Jenna's 6th cast of the day too.
Oh.
Yeah, it's online on YouTube. You can watch it. It was a complete gong show. Line was everywhere when wrapped around the boat. We were lucky to land it, but we got it in the boat.
No, right on. It's perfect.
Yeah. There's some big fly stuff here. The Bufords, big poppers. I got some stuff here actually. Just stuff that a few guys have given me over the years. Stuff like that for the musky. The Bufords I really like. There's a smaller one for some pike. I like the smaller ones for pike. Big poppers, stuff like that. Again, floating lines, sinking lines. You'll need both probably at certain times of the year. I've used both steel and fluorocarbon leaders. I've had a couple of schools of fluorocarbon, so the last couple of years I've been using fluorocarbon for that reason, but there's nothing wrong with steel. A lot of guys I know actually prefer titanium over the steel, and they prefer the titanium over fluorocarbon.
Why is that? What's the reasoning?
The kinking, I believe. I don't think titanium kinks like steel.
Yep. Okay.
Or steel kinks pretty good. This is more the musky guys compared to the pike. But that said, I've never had nothing break off my 100-pound test leaders, but I don't do a whole lot of musky fishing, so I know the guys want a lot heavier stuff than that. 10-weight rod, I would say, would be the minimum you'd want for musky fishing. It's a long day casting, that's for sure. I'm not going to lie about that. Some guys, your arm will fall off. Oh, another fly here that a lot of people for pike actually like to use up front here is just the bunny tail, the leech. We actually throw these even on spinning rods with the guys that don't fly fish when the pike are pretty finicky on the clear water bays of Superior, up in Nipigon, or in the inland lakes around here. Just the bunny tail works really good. A little bit of gear stuff for the muskie. Your typical bulldogs, bucktail spinners, spinner baits, top raiders, stuff like that. Nothing out of the ordinary for the musky guys. There's not a whole lot of musky fishing for the musky guys out there. We have a couple inland lakes with musky. I don't know. I'm going to say about 3 that I can think of that are good fisheries. There's probably other lakes that I don't know about that have muskies, but not a whole lot of musky options, but there is a couple.
Mm-hmm.
Inland trout. That's what a lot of people come up here for too, is the inland trout opportunities. Lots of natural lake trout lakes, natural brook trout lakes. Plus, we have a lot of stocking. Most of my buddies from growing up into this day that still fish around the Sioux, a lot of them do fish the walleye and bass, but a lot of these guys are trout guys. They just fish the brook trout. They fish the back lake trout lakes. Some of the lakes you can get big boats into, but lots of these lakes you need side-by-sides, 4-wheelers, your tin can boats, canoes. I kind of gotten away from it the last probably 7-8 years, really, just because of guiding and stuff. I do lots in the bigger water now, the same areas and Superior and stuff like that. But growing up, we did a lot of back lake stuff. I still do trips up in Lake Superior Provincial Park for trout, lake trout, brook trout, splake. Next couple slides, you'll see some park stuff coming up. I'll talk a little bit more about the park when it pops up. But these fish here in particular that are up, these are just a couple inland lakes around Algoma, around the Sioux actually, that drive to, plop your boat in. You can cast spoons, hardware, or fly fish too. These are some brook trout lakes that we drive right up to with our trucks, throw small boats in. Like these aren't even side by side 4-wheeler lakes. We can drive full size vehicles to these lakes, fish a couple lakes in a day even, no problem. These are some better brook trout from these lakes. I know the one on the right, this is my cousin Mike. I fished them quite a bit. And the one on the right is about a 23-inch brook trout from, I think, 2 springs ago. We got rated ice out, which is a good fish for around here.
It's a solid fish. Those are awesome.
Yeah. There's some lake trout and left fly fishing. Brook trout on the right, obviously. That was a dry fly trip with this guy. I don't do too many dry fly fishing trips. Conditions are right. Depends where I am too at that time of the year. But I used to do a few more around the Wawa area, and I think that was the last time I was up there with this guy here. And that's about the average size fish.
They're mostly streamer based, like subsurface and nymphing for the fish.
Yeah, well, we were doing that day. It was all dry flies. I don't remember what we were using exactly, but we do swinging streamers, small streamers, but a lot of nymphing, like you said. Yeah, a lot of bugs. Mm-hmm. So now you'll see some canoe fishing and kayaks in the background. This is Lake Superior Provincial Park, which the park starts about halfway between the Sioux and Wawa, and it runs for about 100 kilometers on the Trans-Canada Highway. So it takes about an hour to drive through it. But there's, I don't know how many lakes in the park. No bait allowed, no boats and motors. So a lot of guys paddle fish with canoes and kayaks. Some fly fishing guys go in there, but a lot of people are just in there paddling. So the fishing opportunities have barely even been touched. You can go in there and fish for a week, and you might see 1 or 2 other groups of fishermen, honestly, depending on where you go. There's a few lakes you can drive right to, like this lake here. We drove right to this lake with the vehicles launched, and we might have seen 3 or 4 groups over a couple days fishing. And we're fly fishing here with full sinking lines. We were slow rolling streamers on bottom, kind of jigging them, actually, kind of just casting out, letting them sink down to bottom, letting the waves kind of jig it for us. And we were stripping them in really slowly. But this is my client Kelly, and actually she thought about throwing on a nymph behind the streamer. And sure enough, that was the ticket for that day. It was a small caddis, 40 feet of water behind a smelt streamer. And more fish took that caddis nymph than the streamer that day. So ever since then, when fishing can be tough, I'll throw on a nymph, and a lot of times that nymph will clean house.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, I've seen before that the streamer will attract fish and they'll refuse the streamer big thaw and then hit the small thing, the natural behind there. And that's a deadly thing for me for bass and all sorts of species. That's a good move. Solid. Yeah.
And you know what? Looking back at this time of the year, I don't know exactly the date, but I know it was the middle of the summer. I bet you at the time, not knowing that those mayfly nymphs were probably coming up. That's what the fish were always probably gorging on. She nailed it perfectly. Yeah. And but it's the day my client taught me something.
Yeah, it happens.
This is actually the same group of people. I've had them a couple times since. They're great people. The fish on the right is actually still one of the bigger brook trout caught out of this lake. It was his first fish of the day. I remember it was about a 22-inch brook trout. Again, that's a really nice fish for this area. You get to 22, 23 inches. The park, that's a good one. That's a real nice fish. I've seen some bigger ones, but that's a real nice fish for the area. Another nice brook trout caught. My client Scotty from down south. I just threw in a picture of a portage trail. So if you are up in Lake Superior Provincial Park and see those orange signs, that just means there's a portage onto another lake.
I find those usually mean pretty good fishing, so you have to work for it. You have to get back there a little bit as well. So that's
the thing about the Lake Superior Provincial Park is it's not so much like that, where there's no bass in the park. It's all trout. So
Okay.
every lake you're fishing basically is trout. There's one lake that has pike, but they're all trout lakes. So you don't really have to go back all that far. But that said, if you do want to go back far, the fishing's worth it. Some of the brook trout lakes back there, you know, you go a couple portages back and it's phenomenal, numbers and size. Same with the lake trout. For inland lake trout fishing, the numbers can be great in the park. That said, middle of summer, they go pretty deep. Like I said before, we were fishing 40 feet of water with full sinking lines. It can be mind numbing at times. It's pretty slow going fishing, I will say. Just some more lake trout. Maybe a little bigger than your average size lake trout in the park, but that's some nice fish from the park for clients. Brook trout again, another lake trout. I put that picture of me doing a shore lunch there. I think we don't do shore lunches anymore, but that's just a picture of a campsite. If anybody is kind of wondering what the campsites look like in the park, that's an interior campsite. They fire pits. There's usually some wood around, grills, stuff like that. So again, game changer comes up again. Buggers, clousers, poppers, minnow patterns, nymphs. Basically a little bit of everything for the trout. For the gear guys, spoon spinners, small cranks, bucktail jigs, soft plastics. Soft plastics, I'm talking like jig head with a minnow, soft plastic minnow on the back end of it. Snap jigging those around brush piles, rocks, points, stuff like that. For accommodations, I kind of just left it the same for my last presentation with a couple of northern options, the Voyager, Macaulay's in Haviland Bay, Twilight Resort, which is around Montreal Harbor. If you want to fish the park without camping out, if you want a cabin. Sault Ste. Marie hotels, the Quality Inn, the Water Tower Inn, Quattro, all nice places, all nice restaurants. But I recommend just going to algomacountry.com. Go on the website there. They have a whole list of, there's probably hundreds of places to stay in Algoma. So I've just put a couple on here just to get people started on it. I'd recommend just going to the website and having a look yourself at the list on there. If anybody wants to book a trip with me with inland lake fishing, contact me through my website, tylerdunguiding.ca, through my email address. You can give me a call or text anytime, 705-206-0984. You can find me on Instagram or Facebook with Tyler Dunn Guiding. I'm fairly booked up. I still have a few early season spots open in May, 4 or 5 days, I would say. June's totally solid. July is about half booked. And August is actually starting to fill up already. So if anybody's looking to fish inland, shoot me a message as soon as you can, and I'd set you up with something probably July and August right now. But these lakes fish well in September too.
Oh, it's brilliant. That's a good note as well. Like, yeah, good guides are busy and booked up early on, so get on that. We get a lot of folks ask, "Hey, do you think I can get in on a trip somewhere?" I'm like, "Well, chances are they're booked, so book early."
And see, that's what happened. I used to rely on that. 5 years ago, I didn't have the return clients. I didn't have, I guess the name I have now. So I was getting a lot of. I had some booking the stuff this time of the year, but I was getting a lot of, "What are you doing next week? What are you doing Thursdays?" And those trips do come. But now this year, especially if I do get those calls in June. There's just not much I can do about those anymore. I try and do double shifts and that, but now having a young kid at home, the double shift thing doesn't work like it used to. I would do it no problem before, but now daycare and all the fun stuff. I'll still do it if I can, but definitely things have changed. Like I said, fairly busy already for the first part of the year, but lots of opportunity for the second part still.
Yeah. Now, we didn't touch on, like, say, things like walleye on the fly. Is that the possibility up in your?
You know what? That's the only thing I didn't touch in here. I did put a couple pictures up. I took them out the other day, but I do some walleye fishing. The reason I did take it out is most of it I do on Lake Huron, which is in a different zone, zone 14. So it's not considered inland, But I do some inland stuff for the walleye. Most of it's on the Spanish River, which runs inland into zone 10, and actually runs out on zone 14. So it's two different zones on the Spanish River. It's confusing as heck. Different limits, different seasons. You're on the same body of water. It's crazy. There's a little flag on the river, and that's the line. But I do some walleye trips out there, spin guys and fly guys. For fly fishing, it probably isn't one of the better places to go for walleye. That's more out on the lake without the current. We're doing some of the spin stuff in the current, jigs, heavy jigs, stuff like that. But the fly guys, we throw like little flies like you tie it up, bright clouds and minnow stuff with the floats. I don't remember the name. I have a couple of them over there, but they have floating eyes that kind of come up off bottom. You use a sinking line, the fly will come off bottom, kind of swimming along.
Oh, boobies. Boobies. Yeah.
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 Even the leech patterns work good for the walleye too, but there's some walleye opportunities for fly guys and lots for the spin guys too.
No, fantastic. That's a highly sought after fish, and on the fly, it's one of those things where they're hard to get down here. Is population?
Yeah, I think we did talk about going one day when you were up, but the bass fishing was so hot, we just said screw it.
Oh, why would you give that up?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was eye opening. It really was in terms of the possibilities up there and the quality of fishing. I had no idea it was that good.
Yeah.
And new fly fisher guys have called the area Trophy Alley, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, you know what? I'm glad you touched on that because I kind of forgot to talk about Trophy Alley. The new fly fisher dubbed it the Trophy Alley. I don't know how many years ago, but they were right from the Sault Ste. Marie to about Sudbury, but more or less the Blind River area, Spanish area. Even a little more east of that or west of that. That's what they dubbed Trophy Alley. Basically every lake in that area with bass, which is most of them, absolutely loaded with numbers. Average size is 3 to 4 pounds. Don't like throwing numbers out there, but you can have days where you get 30, 40, 50, 60 fish. All depends on weather conditions, time of the year, how you want to catch them, stuff like that. But it's hard to explain until you experience especially the early season bass fishing, just how accessible these lakes are. Lots of places to stay. You can fish a new body of water every day, no problem. And you're gonna catch fish pretty well every day.